Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast, hosted by best-selling, award-winning author and renowned weight loss expert, David Medansky. If you struggle to lose weight or you've lost weight and gained it back, you'll want to listen each week. Each week, you will learn tips for healthy weight loss without going on a diet, without having to follow an exercise program, without counting calories, or having to purchase special meals or products. The Stop Dieting podcast is more than just about healthy and sustainable weight loss. You will also learn how you can have more energy, feel better, get rid of brain fog, and improve your overall health. Stay tuned for another informative and insightful episode. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share this with your friends.
Hi, this is David Medansky, host of Stop Dieting. And I'm here with Sandy Levey-Lunden. Did I pronounce your name correct, Sandy?
Sandy Levey-Lunden.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And she's going to be our special guest today. She's an author. She's a life coach. You've done many things in your life. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I will. So are we recording the visual?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I just have something here that I have to remove also. So we can be recording the visual. So I've been a life coach and a counselor for 40 years and a seminar leader. I have 24 different seminars that all work with the mind and emotion in my own process called The Power of Clearing. And I wrote each seminar over the past 40 years to work with a situation that somebody presented me in their life, and they wanted to have what I call a breakthrough, or out of a pattern or out of a stuck place into a new place. So I wrote them a course. And then when I put them through the course, and sometimes it was their whole family or all their friends they could involve, I saw that I had a new course that I really liked. And that's how the 24 courses were born, like called True Woman's Power, The Power of Clearing, The Art of Surrender, Choosing Freedom, the Way Out of All Pain and Suffering, and the Way Back to Who You Are, The Art of Partnership.
Okay, so you have a lot of courses. And you just wrote a new book also?
Yes, my new book will be launched to the public called I Just Want Peace on July 27th.
Okay, so when this airs, it'll already be released. So that'll be great for the audience. Where will the book be available?
On Amazon. It'll be available in Kindle, hardcover, and softcover.
And during your work as a life coach, you've dealt a lot with the mind, correct?
Yes, thousands of people. I work with their mind, what their thoughts are, what their feelings, what their beliefs, and what their emotions, and their limitations that they put in their mind that stops them from doing what they say they want to do.
And when it comes to eating healthy and reducing weight, what is the most important aspect of the mind that you've come across?
What somebody feels from their childhood about their eating and about the way they look, their body, their image, and the messages they got that they took on from their parents and from the world about their body and how they're supposed to look or should look. Those words are part of what I call my clearing process. Ought to look, might look. And looking at really, first of all, just accepting themselves the way they are right now. That's a very important part because we can't change something if we're in resistance to where we are right now. So first, acceptance, talking about how you got to where you are right now, both in your eating, healthy, unhealthy, exercise, thinking, feeling. There's a lot of components to it. And what the messages you got from your friends as a child, from your mom and dad, the way they eat, the way you ate as a family as a child. Well, there's many parts to this. It's complex.
So I refer to that as dietary duplication, which is a term coined by a friend of mine, John Canada. And what that means basically is that people eat a certain way because that's how they were taught by their parents, because that's how they learned. Are you familiar with the pot roast story?
No, but I can gather, I can name it and what it means, because, we ate a lot of pot roast as a kid. And I ate the way my family ate as a kid, but I don't eat that way today. But I love to hear the story.
Sure. Basically, it's about a young lady who's hosting a dinner, and she cooks a pot roast. And one of the guests says, "This is delicious. Can I get the recipe?" And the host says, "Of course." And so she writes it down. The guest looks it over and says, "Why do you cut the ends of the pot roast off before you cook it?" And the host says, "I'm not sure. Let me ask my mom. She's the one that taught me." So she calls her mother the next day, and her mom says, "I don't know why we cut the ends of the pot roast off. That's how your grandmother taught me. Then why don't you call your grandmother?" So the host calls her grandmother and says, "Grandma, why did you cut the ends of the pot roast off before you cooked it?" And the grandmother thought for a while, and she says, "Oh, because when I was first married, the pot was too small and I had to cut the ends off to make it fit." So the lesson of that story is basically we do certain things a certain way and eat a certain way because that's how we were taught, without questioning anything about what we're eating, why we're eating, when we're eating, or how we're eating it. So I understand what you're saying about the mindset as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, my parents did that. I when you started to tell the story, of course, I had heard the story, and I love the story, and it's a great answer because this one did it, that one did it, and my parents were that way also. But then as they got older, since they lived to be 95 and almost 98, they did change all their eating habits and the way they ate and why they ate, and they became different people based upon where they wanted to go in their life goals. They wanted to live to be healthy, not have anybody take care of them, be in sound mind, sound body. So they ate a certain way completely differently from the way they used to eat.
That's awesome. Now, when we talk about mindset, you mentioned that people come in for help from you and they want to do certain things. They want to lose weight or eat healthier. However, wanting to do something and willing to make the changes and put the effort into doing is something different. What did you find was the biggest resistance for people who say they want to do something, not doing it?
What I would call their belief system about themselves, like I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not good enough, I'm not wanted, I'm not cared about. Now, these belief systems, I found them all over the world because I did travel a huge amount before the pandemic with my work and went everywhere personally. Whereas today I would do it on a Zoom. But before that, I really enjoyed meeting everyone and being face to face in a room full of 20 to even 100 people. And the universal idea of what their negative core belief was the first thing we had to address and to really release through the clearing, that they would get that they are worth loving, that they are worth taking care of, that they are worth doing whatever would be necessary to be healthy and be alive in a vigorous way, not just passable, in the sense that I can sit in a chair, and watch TV or read a book or whatever, but I mean alive in a vigorous way, where they could do something with their life, anything that they dreamed of doing, that their body would not stop them.
In doing research for some of the books I've written, I noticed that, or came across that 80% of our thoughts are negative. And I was just wondering how that would change if 80% of our thoughts were positive for people.
That would be amazing. We talk about something, David, there that I call the self-talk of a person, and I'm sure you work with it also. The self-talk of a person is one of the key essentials to making a change. If a person is making themselves wrong, telling themselves no all day long, what they can do, what they can't do, what they would be willing to do, what they couldn't do, that will stop them. So everybody has what I call resistance. Some people have a huge amount of resistance. Some people have a lesser amount to get to where they think they want to go or where they say they want to go. I meet that resistance in myself, not a lot though, somewhat. But in people I work with, I can meet it much stronger than I have it in myself because I worked with it for the past 40 years.
Now, you were kind enough to share with me that you're 77. Why do you still want to help people and put yourself in that position or situation?
Well, for me, my life is about being truly helpful. That's why I call my business On Purpose. I've been the way that I am right now since I was 7 years old. I have not changed that much, really. I always thought about people from what could I do to be helpful to this person or that person. I came here basically that way, like on a mission, basically. I was not a child in that sense. I played, but it was not a major interest of mine. It didn't seem to excite me as much as talking to people, asking them questions, hearing what they say, feeding it back to them. I was always that way. I think I came here especially to be alive in this way, and not just to exist, but to exist purposefully. That's how I always am. I'm that way in everybody and everything. If I go down the street and I see something and I'm motivated to address it, I'll go there. I don't stop myself. I don't have a lot of, oh, they wouldn't want to hear from me, or they're not going to respect what I say. I just go for it. I'm at
Oh,
an airport, I go for it.
that's awesome. And what would you say is the biggest factor for people who their biggest why for wanting to improve their health?
That they have something they want to do. It could be anything. It could be like take a trip and go on one of those walking tours, that we talk about in Europe or anywhere in the world, or that they want to hike to a mountain, or that they want to hold an event. They have to have something that they want to do that they can't do from the place they're in. It has to be a motivating factor of what they want to do. Like, I'll give you an example. My friend Christina Ireland asked me yesterday, she was talking about going on the Camino. I'm sure you know what the Camino is. Shirley MacLaine made it very famous in Spain about walking on this very spiritual trek that went through certain, I think it's actually hundreds of miles, where people go on a pilgrimage and they meet others and they discuss their involvement or their awareness, or what I would call their enlightenment. It's a spiritual trek, and you can go with a spiritual guide. She says to me, I would like to go with you on this trek and take a whole group with us like we used to do in all the seminars, when we weren't in the pandemic. So I thought, that's an interesting idea. Okay, I would really have to get into shape to walk 20, 30 miles a day with you and a whole group of people who would be going through their process. Okay, I would have to start training for that now. I could start out with X amount of miles a week, a day, and then I could commit to it. So, I mean, there's something that came into my life, and then there's the people who would go with me. They would also have to commit to the training of this. So we'd have to eat a certain way, exercise in a certain way, and walk a certain amount to be able to make this pilgrimage. I think it's a perfect example of what occurred in my mind yesterday.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, for me, I had my wake-up call back in July of 2016 when my doctor told me, based on my lab results and being significantly overweight, I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack. So
Wow.
for me, reducing the weight and changing my eating habits and lifestyle was because of medical reasons and health reasons, as opposed to wanting to go on a trek like you mentioned, or going on a trip. I know that a lot of people will often lose weight because they have a high school reunion coming up, or a wedding, or a major event, and they want to look good for it. The problem with that, and maybe you've noticed, is once they lose the weight and they attend the event, then they gain it back because they revert back to their old eating habits. Can you help people not revert back so they make permanent changes?
Yes. Everything, habits are in the unconscious. And what I actually work with in the clearing is clearing the unconscious, mostly of guilt. And that's going to sound like a funny word here, but a lot of what I'm doing is freeing a person from what they think they're guilty for, and having them see that it is not advantageous to hold this against themselves, whatever it is, and to motivate themselves to forgive themselves and come to peace with themselves over whatever. This can involve completing relationships with people and really going back and saying what you needed to say to them that you never said, and coming to a state of peace with that person. Because, to me, I am still wanting to be in friendship with every person I've ever been in friendship or relationship with. That means relatable, coming back to communicating. I don't have somebody that I wouldn't want to communicate with. That would be a very big challenge that if I had something like that going on. Most people don't think of it. I think of everything as about joining, unification, oneness, and that our real problems are about separation, isolation, and feeling like cut off or alone. There are so many people in the world who feel very cut off and alone, who don't reach out and don't have the support system of people really caring about them and talking to them. Because talking is a very important thing, especially when we're really communicating, as opposed to a peripheral thing like, what are we going to eat? Or how should we clean the house? Or shall we buy a new car and what kind? Or shall we fix this car? It is a different kind of communication. That the essence of a person, of what I'm talking about, is what people talk to me about. Deep things, deep subjects, like how they're going to change their whole eating habit and become a healthy, alive person. My
That's
father,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
my father, I have as a role model my father, and he played tennis every day of his life up until the time he was 94. When I say every day, I mean every day. And every day he swam. And so he was in phenomenal shape. His mind followed his body, because, when you read these books, you see, if you move your body a tremendous amount, your mind is going to be a lot clearer. And when my mother, who was getting into a state of of dementia, not early dementia, because she was over 94, because then people get dementia very early. And she said to him, I don't want you to leave me. I want you to stay here with me. I don't want you to go play tennis. I don't want you to exercise. I don't want you to go swim and play handball and all these things that he did play. The minute he did that, stopped doing it, his body started to deteriorate. Not his mind, but his body. And he didn't have the mobility that he once had, which would include driving his car. He still drove up to 96 or 97. But it makes a huge difference how much you move. And I saw that in him. I
Oh,
saw
no.
that in him.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. I know that Rebel Wilson, the actress, lost 77 pounds in a year simply by walking an hour each day. And then I read another actress, she started walking. What she was doing was, after when she had a 10-minute break, instead of being on social media or texting friends, she would go for a walk, and she would do it 4 or 5 times a day. So she'd walk 40 or 50 minutes. The point being, you don't have to do it all at one time. You can just do it
Great
throughout
idea.
the day.
That is a great idea. So taking a break, like some people used to, smoke for that reason. Today, most people have given that up because it's very, very unhealthy. But actually, that would work for people who smoke. They take a break, like a life break. I'm going out there to just be alone with my cigarette. That's the truth.
Yeah, it's interesting because with COVID, a lot of us were isolated, and I'm sure you dealt with a lot of clients who felt, as you mentioned, alone, frustrated, no one to talk to, because they had to remain, quarantined or isolated. And I noticed that in Dan Buettner's book, The Blue Zones, he talks, one of the lifestyles is socializing, and not just socializing, but also eating a meal with someone. And that's what they do. They share meals. And can you address how important that is, so that people realize that it's being together with other people?
Yeah, I love to eat together with other people. I hardly ever eat alone, to be truthful. And I always think that one of the exciting parts of my life is who I'm going to meet for the meal. It could be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I always look forward to it when I book it in my book. And even when I'm at home, I have others that come and eat with me and join me, because it's a social thing. To me, eating is a social thing, but also planning what you're going to eat. I pretty much know every day, what am I going to eat, either when I wake up or when I go to sleep, that I plan for what am I going to eat that's healthy here. That's the key. What am I going to eat that's healthy? When I approach a menu, I actually look at it from the point of view of, what is the healthiest thing I could eat on this menu? That when I finish this meal, I will feel good about myself and what I ate, as opposed to what I wouldn't want to eat, like something fried, something that has a lot of grease in it. I wouldn't feel good about that at the end. So
No,
I'm thinking
that makes, yeah, that's very important. What other tips or suggestions can you give people to change their mindset about how they view their health and eating healthy?
Well, one thing that I like to do is how something looks. is very important to me. Does it appeal to me in the way the visual of it is? Like, they say in many books, eating a variety of colors, because all different kinds of things, not eating the same thing every day. That's another, it's like an adventure. So could I create something that would be more like an eating adventure for today? What would be exciting to try or create, kind of like a design, or a person paints a picture. So, I play those kinds of games with myself. That's something that I enjoy. And then, as opposed to what I wouldn't want to eat for whatever reason, everything is about the positive enhancement, not what isn't good for me. I don't focus on that at all. I focus the opposite on what would be good for me, what would feel good at the end of the day. How many steamed cooked vegetables did I eat? Fruits, cottage cheese, whatever I think is a healthy item for me personally. Blueberries, the superfoods. How many did I eat? Did I put them in a blender and make a beautiful color out of them? Because they could be blue, they could be purple, so color appeals to me, and I love design. So, I'm into food design in that way, but not an extravagant way in the sense that I sit around cutting up everything. I mean, a certain amount of time is needed to prepare this food. That's for sure. And would I give myself the time that it would take? It's like a gift to yourself. And I love your idea about not just walking for an hour, because, that could be one thing, and that would require taking a whole hour. But what about taking, as you just said, breaks all day long, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I live in an area where everything is very beautiful. I live on a 280-acre park with a 100-foot waterfall, and it's accessible. And I live near a lake, so, could get to these spots. I noticed the more exercise that I've done in my life, the better that I am. I feel younger at 77 right now than I did, say, even maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome. It's interesting you talk about color, because most people may not realize that blue is an appetite suppressant, because in nature, there's only two foods that are blue, the blueberry and a grape from South America. And what people may not realize is red and yellow are actually appetite stimulants. That's why McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Carl's Jr., and other fast food places all have red and yellow or combination in their marketing schemes.
And I didn't know that. Red and yellow are appetite stimulants, like the peppers.
Exactly. So that's one thing people need to be aware of. What other aspects of dealing with the mind and overcome those little voices that we all have in our heads do you do to help people to overcome those challenges?
Right. I tell them also to take even an hour and write down, what is the voice saying? What is the negative story that the voice is coming up, even for 5 minutes, 10 minutes? If they could do a whole hour, that would even be better, and a whole day. And writing it down and hearing it, and then saying it to yourself, what you wrote down, so that you can hear it again in a conscious way, not just have the voice just go off like rote habit. Say it again consciously. Do you want to give this message to yourself? What is the exact message here? Is all of this talk saying you're not valuable or you're not important? Can you identify the belief that this message is talking to? That's a very important part. And to hear it and really get it. Is this what you want to feed yourself? Because it's kind of like a food. These negative messages are like food or sustenance. So to stop yourself from actually getting these messages.
Oh, that's great advice. I like the idea of journaling. In fact, I advocate that people should write down what they eat, when they eat, where they, and also why they're eating, so that they can
understand. That's a great question. Why are they eating this? Exactly. That is a great question. Are they hungry, or are they feeding some emotion? And what is the emotion? Awareness is everything.
Yeah, because a lot of people will choose food for comfort or to relieve stress. And when we watch movies or TV shows, a lot of times when someone's upset, the first thing they show them is eating a pint of ice cream or a large piece of cake to comfort themselves. So that's why it's important to understand why we do certain things. So that's great to know that that's what you think is important also.
Yes, awareness is everything, and stopping, not just being working on rote all the time, or stress, or having to have to, or must. We have to wake up and really get, what are we saying to ourselves in our mind, and what are we feeding ourselves, both in our thoughts and in our food. In general, the food matches the thoughts. So if I'm feeding myself negative ought to, must, should, make wrongs, what I call have tos, what I call limitations, fears, guilt, I'm going to eat for comfort out of it.
Is
I'm going
that
to try to take
because
it away.
because what we focus on expands? So when we're focusing on the negatives, then
Absolutely.
that's what we're going to get more of.
And we're going to eat to that point. We're going to eat to that negativity instead of conscious, alive food.
Do you
Right.
help people with doing positive affirmations? Do you like using affirmations?
Yes, I like the affirmations. And before I get to the affirmation, I'm doing the clearing of what it's really going to, because I don't want to put the affirmation on top of something that's stuckness. So first I make a clear, like clearing in a pool, and letting them clear to wherever they want to go. And then we make the positive affirmation. Now we have a clear space to hear it, have it go in, have it be a reality. Yes.
That's terrific. When you've been dealing with people with food issues, what other resistance have you noticed? Do people follow through with you? Are they in compliance or non-compliance? What has your experience been with helping other clients?
I'd say my experience of thousands of people. I think I've worked with, I actually could say I've been working with about 40,000 people in my whole career. It has to level of resistance, level of commitment, level of dedication. Not everybody is the same. You know, they have to get through their fear, which I'll call resistance. They have to get through their guilt, which I'll call resistance. Resistance, as I said, plays a big component of whether somebody's even allowed themselves to do this kind of deep work with me. If they think they're worth it or valuable or will take the time. It's the same thing about taking the time to eat properly. Will they take the time? Will they take the space to eat in a certain way?
Well, yeah, I can understand that. I know Mark David wrote a book called The Slow Down Diet. And in there, he advocates if you take 5 or 10 minutes for breakfast, give yourself 10 or 15, and at a minimum, give yourself 30 minutes for lunch or 30 minutes for dinner. Because so often we're busy, we'll eat at our computers, we'll eat in our cars, and we're not focusing on the food we're eating. And before we realize it, the sandwich is gone. Or if we're snacking, watching TV, the bag of cookies or chips or pretzels is gone. It's like, well, where did it go? And so
Right. No
that's one thing.
consciousness of it.
Exactly.
That is so important, that we consciously eat and take the time to focus on it. Many, many years ago, I had the pleasure to work with to eat and spend time with this very well-known person whose name is Frederick Leboyer, who wrote the book Birth Without Violence. And one of the conditions of meeting him, because I'm very interested in the effects of birth on someone's life and the womb experience. One of the conditions of spending the whole evening with him was this: when we talk, we talk. When we eat in silence, focusing on exactly what we ate. When we walk, we're just going to walk. So everything that we're going to do together in this evening, as long as you agree to it, that we focus on it and do nothing else but that one item, then I can be together with you for several hours. That's how it went.
Well, that's great.
And
I
it's
guess
very unusual.
I guess that's what they mean by being in the present.
Yes, exactly. And he was in the present, both in his book, How Babies Should Be Born and in What Way, with the music, the tone, the feeling, and the food. Also, the food that the mother ate and didn't eat during the pregnancy and the subsequent birth. Exactly.
So what are you doing now to help people? Are you still taking on new clients?
Oh yeah, I take on new clients every day. I talk to people and I get new clients, and I work 7 days a week still by appointment. I wouldn't work if I was tired. In other words, if I reached the point at the end of the day that I was full, I would say, you know what, to your advantage, I think we should reschedule. But I
Yep.
very rarely do that. But if I came to the point where I felt that way, I would, because I don't want to be even a small amount off while I'm doing this, because it takes a lot of what I call mindfulness and a wakefulness for me to see, what do I really want to clear here? What is the real issue? What do we really need to do here to really give this person what I call relief out of their stressed place, or move to a really big breakthrough? So I only really work when I'm really ready to work.
And what would you say is the biggest reason, an underlying issue for people's guilt or negative, feelings toward themselves? What would you say is probably the biggest underlying issue of that?
I would say that their past relationship with nurturance and love, inside the womb, outside the womb, in the early years of their life up to 7, what they made up about themselves, what they feel, their worth, their value. And the really harder parts is to work with people who have it at an early stage, this very uneasy feeling that they're not really loved or wanted or cared about, because the trauma or the limitation or the lack of love feeling occurred before verbal, which meant that they couldn't really express it to anyone. They didn't know how to say it. That would probably be before age 7. So I work with a lot of early trauma, what I call early trauma. And it doesn't have to be a huge trauma for it to be laid down as an early trauma. It could be a series of things. We don't have to have a ceiling fall on us for us to perceive it as difficult, hard, rejected, unloved. It would just take a couple of things for somebody to get that idea.
Oh,
So awareness is everything, to really remember what they felt, what they experienced, and be able to tell me now. If they can tell me now what they're going through, it's easier. The hardest person to work with is someone who's not aware of what they feel, think, or believe. And so that I have to go through the whole process of helping them become aware of what is their real programs, their habits, their mindsets. That will take longer.
Well, that's interesting and fascinating. What is the best way someone can reach out to you and get in touch with you?
They can call me on the telephone in Pacific Standard Time at my home office number, 360-527-2796. They can reach out to me at my email of my name of my company, On Purpose, all together, just like being on purpose, at Sandy Levey, and you have to spell Levy correctly, LEVEY.com. On my website, Sandy Levey, www.sandylevey. And if somebody calls me or reaches out to me, I always answer. So if I don't answer, it means I didn't get the message, because I'm a responder.
Oh, that's great.
Always answer.
Well, I appreciate your being a guest today. You gave us some very fascinating information. Is there one tip you can leave the audience with before we end the episode?
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. I talked to a client this morning, and she was telling me about her parents. I love dogs, by the way, so I'm glad he's barking in the background.
Yeah, unfortunately, somebody rang the doorbell. So
yeah, understand. And when you go to my website, it says matchmaker, coach, counselor, dog lover, proud grandma. So dog lover is a huge thing. I love dogs, almost probably as much as I love people. I study dogs. Anyway, if you blame it, you can become it. So in other words, or have it. In other words, everything that I blame my parents for, I could have taken on. So if you blame it, you can actually claim it. And now we have to take away what we took on from our parents and our conditioning, so we can get back to who are we really, not who are we not. So we have to be aware of what we blamed. Very important point.
That's
and what
great.
we didn't like that we took on, and that we're really, in many ways, can be our mother or our father in the behaviors that we didn't even like.
So awareness is very important, and blame is important in being accountable for our own situations.
Absolutely.
Super.
And yeah, and also being able to communicate it to somebody, not just think it, but to share it with somebody who's listening, because as you share it, you get it. What you teach, you learn. What you share, you hear. So it's not just being in my head, it's being able to verbalize it, share it, and be received. This is also very, very important. My new book, called I Just Want Peace, is named after a homeless man that I met on the street here in Bellingham, Washington, where I live, in this quaint town, which has, it's a college town, Western Washington University. And when I walked up to him and I stopped and I looked at his sign, it said homeless. And I said to him, well, this is kind of ambiguous to me, because does it mean you want food? Do you want a place to live? Do you want a job? And I said to him, what is it that you really, really want? And he said, oh, I only just want peace.
Oh, that's a great story.
And
Thank you for sharing that.
That has been my lifelong quest since I was a child. Ultimately, we're looking for peace of mind in every area, which would include our food, our body, our eating habits, our exercise habits. And we have to motivate ourselves, as we talked about, to want to live it as a lifestyle, as opposed to one thing.
Excellent.
Like one thing, like
Yeah.
just because I'm going to my graduation, I want to look good. That will not do it, change my lifestyle, but it has to be a lifestyle of health, not just one thing.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Sandy. I appreciate your being a guest today. And I hope our audience will reach out to you and benefit from your wisdom and expertise and knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for listening to the Stop Dieting podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss a single episode to get more healthy eating and lifestyle tips. Motivate and inspire others to be healthy by sharing with your friends.